All right. Well, I don't hear anything. Microphone check 1 2 1 2. Hopefully everything's working. I'll give it a whirl. Hey, everybody, and welcome to B2B Hour. This is your hour right here on Auto Conversion. It's actually a live webcast series that we facilitate here for B2B marketing and sales professionals. And that includes business leaders, business owners, and entrepreneurs. So whether you're running your own business, running a side hustle, or working for a company, if you're an entrepreneur or aspiring entrepreneur, you are in the right place. Today is Wednesday, January 12th, first show of the year. So I got to say, Happy New Year to everybody. I am Ryan Girardi, your host and MC today. So I thank you for joining us. Appreciate you being here. Let me do a quick microphone check. Hey guys in the backstage, can you guys hear me okay? I just want to make sure okay, good. For some reason, I'm not hearing myself too well, but I will take it that you can. So look, our general theme for this show is how to stay connected and engaged with customers, your strategic partners, and your employees. Now, we offer a unique product here on Auto Conversion to help you do this. And we invite you here to learn, to network, and to grow your personal brand, your professional brand, grow your network, and grow your online reputation. So today our focus is on how to turn that side hustle into a full-time small business. And our guest today is Charles Alexander, who's a side hustler himself. We'll be talking with him in a few moments. We also have firewalk instructor Harriet Bratt joining us. And Harriet will be talking about confidence and communication and unleashing that warrior within. So sit back, relax, hang tight. We will get started in just a moment. We'll be right back. All right. So what I want to do is we're getting Charles ready to hop up here on stage, and we're going to focus on how to turn that side hustle into a business. So, you finally decided to take the plunge, right? And you turn that hustle into a full-time business. So good for you. You've got a great product or a service. You have customers, raving fans. You're making money. You're about to make real money. So you're all set, right? What could go wrong? Well, if you've ever tried having a side hustle or taking it full time, well, then you're probably already familiar with the idea that, hey, life is what happens while you're busy making plans. I heard that from Charlie Brown, but it's a pretty famous saying, life is what happens while you're busy making plans. I can tell you that in the 6+ years that I've been running this business for myself, I can attest to multiple instances where my plans went out the door due to unplanned circumstances. Most recently, of course, is this COVID-19 pandemic. But pandemics are not the only curveballs that can be thrown at us and our business. So whether you're looking to start a side hustle or turn your side hustle into a business, you're going to be better off asking yourself a few questions. I got 3 questions here, and these come from Charles, and we're going to talk about these and a handful of other things. But A, do you have a goal? And we don't mean just like, let's change the world and make it a better place type of goal. We're talking about a real goal that you can measure and improve, like revenue is a good example. Question number 2, do you have money set aside? Keep the lights on while you're running your business full time. Because if you ever play poker, hey, sometime, chips are down, sometimes chips are up. So do you have money set aside? And finally, if you have a family, are they on board? If you have a spouse and children, have you talked with them about that? And are they on board? And I would say if you can answer yes to all 3 of these questions, then you might be ready to take that side hustle and turn it into full-time business. But if not, then maybe consider this your cue to rethink what you have in mind. So we're going to get started. I have a quick commercial break, and then I'll be back. Charles Alexander here. We'll talk about that for about 15 minutes, and then we'll have Harriet Bratt on as well. So hang tight, and let's get started after this commercial break.
Hey Dad, are you still looking for a car? Did you know that when you click on car ads, dealers pay for every click? But shouldn't you get paid? After all, you're the one clicking. That's why I use AskOtto. With AskOtto, you build rewards as you shop. Plus, AskOtto recommends exclusive offers based on your needs. You can ask questions on cars you like and still protect your personal information. You can even set your price. Who knew car shopping could be so easy and rewarding? AskOtto, fast, fun, and rewarding car shopping.
I got to press the right button. Here we
There
go.
you go.
All right, Charles, welcome to the program. Great to have you here. How did I do on your 3 questions? Are those the only 3 questions we need to ask to turn our side hustle into a full-time gig?
Good Lord, no. Those are the first 3 you need to answer. But like a lot of other things, if you can get those first 3 right, the rest of them become kind of preliminary. So get those correct, and then you're possibly on your way.
I agree. I acknowledge that I got those questions from you from your material.
Sure.
And I think they're great questions. I think you have to say yes to all 3 personally. I think, you know, I know when I started my business, I had like over 75K in the bank, and it all went away within about 2 years. It was gone, you know? So, no, that's real.
I understand.
So why do you think, tell me your reasons why startups, why these side hustles, why do they fail? What's your data show you?
So the average success rate for a startup is about success rate being 1 out of 3 businesses make it within the first 5 years or so, or rather 2 out of 3 fail. Man, I'll be honest with you. I've got 3 kids at home, ages 13, 10, and 9, all with an entrepreneurial spirit. So this means one thing. 2 out of those little 3 monsters could possibly be living in my bonus room forever. And that's one of the reasons why we have material like I create to help you get over that. In terms of what causes people to fail, you know, there's a wide variety of things. I almost look at it like there's a seven deadly sins almost, and all of them are what you possibly lack going into it. First and foremost is a lack of confidence. And I think you're going to bring on a panel guest here soon that will help address that. I'll leave a lot of that up to her. However, you hear terms fear and failure, and all of those are true, but people tend to brush those off. What they don't brush off is the fact that they don't know everything, and they'll use any bump in the road kind of as a concern or an excuse to stay paralyzed and not move forward. In terms of the other, you know, you have a lack of experience. You may understand the product or service that you have, whether, let's say, you're a graphic designer on the side or you're a caterer on the side, but you might not have any real experience at running that business on a full-time basis. It's kind of unfair too, because how are you going to have experience at running a business until you run a business? But there's several others. A lack of, as you just stated, startup capital for a lot of people. And the fact that you had 75K in the bank is worlds apart and head and shoulders above what most people have. They start on a wing and a prayer and then quickly run into cash flow issues. So that's one of the first things I tell people that they really have to do is have some actual cash in the bank saved up to get themselves up and rolling. And a big one, lack of planning. And when I say a lack of planning, I don't mean a 5-year strategic plan that goes in the trash as soon as you make it. Just some basic thoughts and principles scribbled out, as you stated, from what I had previously talked about, is having a goal. If you got a goal, then you've got a plan in order to reach that goal. And I always use this example. Brian, you ever been on a cruise?
I have.
Did you like it?
There are parts of it I liked, yeah.
You don't like being shuffled around like cattle, do you?
But yeah, you do feel like a part of the herd for sure.
So, dude, before, and I already mentioned this, before I had kids, I'd kind of thought, man, I'm not real big on the cruises. I want to be able to come and go and do what I please without a lot of thought or planning. After we had kids, suddenly it seemed like a good idea. Let somebody else do all the planning. I just have to show up and be the dumb dad and, you know, eat where they tell me to eat and go to what show and get off at St. Thomas to go snorkeling or hopefully not get robbed. That's the goal, right? Just do what they tell me to do. We took a cruise a while back. My wife wanted to amp it up from just like a traditional regular cruise to a Disney cruise, primarily because, you know, I guess we don't want to send all our kids to college. So we went on the Disney cruise, big time, fancy. You don't have to do any planning. But my wife, the ultimate planner, who also has her own bookkeeping business at home that went from side hustle to full time, Made sure and had every detail scheduled in a spreadsheet. There were multiple tabs. There were formulas, VLOOKUPs. I don't even know what a VLOOKUP is, Ryan, but they were in the spreadsheet. And by the time she had gotten done for the trip that needed no planning, she had done more thought and effort into it than most people do from taking their side hustle and turning it into a full-time business. It shouldn't be that way.
No, I agree. I mean, I've learned the hard way. I remember starting my business the first time and, sitting down, putting a mission together and a vision.
Yeah,
And then, business went on, life went on. You forget about those
sure.
things. And then years go by and you hit some obstacles and you realize you kind of, you do need a roadmap and and having a plan. And as I said earlier, opening this up, not everything's going to go according to plan, but you still need to have, a game plan. How do you getting away from the planning part,
Sure.
but you have a business idea? How do you recommend people test their ideas, their business idea, make sure that it's going to pay off in the short term and long term?
Well, first and foremost, you hit it. You need to test it, period. So many people get super excited and in love with the idea of what they have. They just assume that everyone else will love it. And since they didn't do any planning, their version of planning is thinking and praying and sleeping on it. And then their version of testing is asking friends and family. And in most cases, friends and family, whatever you love, they love. Oh, Ryan, you're going to be fantastic. You should go definitely start business coaching and training. Go start a radio show. That sounds great. But you're asking Aunt Edna, who's a payroll clerk at a local business who knows nothing about what you're doing, but she loves you. And that's the right answer according to her. You need to test it by going to talk to potential customers. So one of the first things you have to do is figure out who your targeted customer is. You hear the term thrown out, avatar. Simply think about, if your business is direct to consumer, who is the most likely customer? And if you say anybody, we sell hats, so anyone with a head, you're out.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be anybody between 20 and 80, male or female. You have a particular type of customer that's most likely to purchase from you, male, female, age range, background. And if it's business to business, as so many of your guys are, it could be anybody. In the side hustle I have, where I create 90-second explainer videos, much like the one you just showed a second ago, it could be anybody, but I narrowed mine down to financial advisors and insurance agents. So before I launched that side hustle, I went and talked to them. I went and showed them examples. I went and asked them, what they would consider paying for it or how they would use it. And then when I launched and tested it before I ever took it full time, you don't have to charge full price. You don't have to give it away either, but just try little variations of it and start throwing stuff against the wall to see if a few things stick first. Just asking friends and family if they like it won't do it. Go survey people that are going to be your customer. Ask them lots of questions. They will talk to you. They will reply to you. You don't have to give them the sun and the moon in order to get that going, but it's something that you've got to get started with today. And then you've got to develop the confidence that you can go do that.
And I would even add to that, it'd be better to get rejection, opposition.
Oh, yeah.
It would be better because then you can, challenge your idea.
Well,
Because
sure.
like you said, you don't just want a bunch of people, just agreeing with you because because they know you.
And I know we don't have all the time in the world, but I have story after story where people, I don't know if they went into full midlife crisis mode, but they got to a point where they were ready to shut the world down. And they took their idea, cashed out their 401k, took a home equity line against the house and went full bore, only to find themselves in 3 to 6 months back to a job they hated because they never thought to test it first. Or rather, let me back up. They didn't want to test it first.
Yeah. Yeah. I hate hearing stories like that. So what's something you think most business owners miss? The majority.
I got you. So the big thing that I really see, and I do a lot of business coaching currently in my full-time job, is that they miss focus, which sounds so simple and so cliched to say. But if they can narrow down the time and the effort and the energy to where they're not multitasking and skipping from project to project. And you and I had this conversation before we ever hopped on here about going from email to Slack to 15 other tools. Is just the ability to sit, quiet the world around you, turn off the web browsers that make you think you have to go check everything every time you have a question. We have to Google everything instead of just letting the question kind of lay there. Put your phone away. In fact, put it in a different room. And when you dedicate time to something, make sure that it is the priority of what you are supposed to be working on. So many business owners I have that are quote unquote successful, or they can make a living. They work 12, 14-hour days. They're only productive maybe 30 or 40 minutes of it. The stats on it are pretty staggering. So make sure you know what your priority is. You laser focus on it and put everything else aside and give that time what it needs, your attention.
I completely relate to what you're saying. I've been that person, that business owner, trying to accomplish everything.
Sure.
And it is a mountain that gets exponentially steeper and higher as you climb.
Right.
It's like a rainbow. So that's very real. Charles, we have about 2 minutes.
Okay.
I have a couple questions for you. Let's start with any advice for how to scale your side hustle into a full-time business?
What we just discussed is a good place to start. When I'm talking to people about what their priorities are, they tell me 48 things. Well, by definition, if that many things are your priority, you don't have priority. You don't have a task list.
Yeah.
So as silly as this sounds, and I've done it for myself, it's painful, but it works really well. Write down everything you do throughout the course of a week, 2 weeks. Either use a legal yellow pad. I used Clockify, which is a good Chrome extension. And every time I changed a task, I painfully added it in there. And then you go back and review it over a couple of weeks, and you can start to really focus in on, here's the recurring task, here's the one-time task, here's something that someone else could do, here's what only I can do that makes the business run. And once you start getting that together, you can create either job descriptions. For me, I created several one-page SOPs, standard operating procedures, and then you can start finding other people to jump in so you don't become the bottleneck for that portion of your business. Somebody else out there can do what you do it way cheaper, and probably do it way better. But get it documented, figure out what it is, and figure out who else can do it.
I like that. And folks, after this segment, as I mentioned, we have Harriet Bratt coming on for our wellness mindset segment. But then Charles is going to return to the stage, and we're going to continue this conversation into a discussion. And I'll even interject some of my own ideas into that. But just to close things out here, we got 60 seconds here. What are some maybe less obvious do's and don'ts that you would point out or recommend for people looking to build their side hustle?
Well, a very obvious to me don't, and it goes along with the do get started today. Whatever it is, just start throwing it against the wall. Here's the don't wait on getting all of your ducks in a row first. It will never be perfect. So don't worry about going to get the business license or immediately forming the LLC or getting everything trademarked or having the perfect website. Start testing what you know right now, because all of those other things change and some of them never come to fruition in the first place. So don't wait and do get started.
All right. Charles Alexander, everybody. And let me just share my screen again. If you go to the blog post, if you go to autoconversion.net, and look at this blog post, you'll see a link to Charles's website. You can go there on your own, yourcharlesalexander.com. And what you'll see here is his offer for you to get his checklist on how to turn your side hustle into a small business. So go to yourcharlesalexander.com for that. Charles, thank you for joining us and sharing this with us. I look forward to continuing this conversation in a few moments after our next segment.
Good deal.
Struggling to fill your lot with quality, profitable used vehicles? Van is a revolutionary tool designed to build on your sourcing strategy of consumer vehicles, helping you turn cars faster, connect with local customers, and make an average of $750 more per car. How does it work? Our technology pulls top-quality consumer cars from a wide net of online marketplaces, opening the door beyond auctions and trade-ins. Customizable search filters allow you to narrow down the make, model, price range, and more for your desired inventory. Set ongoing searches for top Struggling to fill your lot with quality, profitable used vehicles? Van is a revolutionary tool designed to build on your sourcing strategy of consumer vehicles, helping you turn cars faster, connect with local customers, and make an average of $750 more per car. How does it work? Our technology pulls top-quality consumer cars from a wide net of online marketplaces, opening the door beyond auctions and trade-ins. Customizable search filters allow you to narrow down the make, model, price range, and more for your desired inventory. Set ongoing searches for top in-demand vehicles. Our user-friendly interface connects you directly with the seller via multi-channel communications. Build brand awareness and strong relationships within your target market. Integrate Van into your current acquisition strategy and benefit from professional training and coaching at no additional cost. Work smarter, stay relevant, and be more profitable with Van. Secure your market today with a free market analysis by going to www.buywithvan.com.
All right, we're going to get the stage set for Harriet Bratt, your firewalk instructor. This is our wellness mindset segment. It's a segment we introduced to the show earlier this year. And the reason I do this is primarily because, as you heard Charles and I talking, there's so much, I think, pressure and misconception to hustle, to grind, to crush it, to work 80 hours a week. Look, man, if you're working that long, if you're working that many hours a week, I think you're doing something wrong. So here I'm going to bring Harriet Bratt to the stage. There we go. Hello, Harriet. And
Hello.
I think this fits under wellness mindset segment because you're talking about confidence and communication and unleashing the warrior within. So I'm very curious to hear what you have to say, but I know you're a traveler. Where are you tuned in from today?
We are currently in Holland, the beautiful Netherlands, and it's a pleasure to be here. And thank you for this time and space, Ryan.
Thank you for being here. Harriet's part of our Get Paid to Speak boot camp with Rob Holman that we launched last year. And if it's on our website, it's under the grow section. If you are looking, if you're a public speaker and you're not getting paid what you're worth, and go to autoconversion.net/grow and look for Get Paid to Speak GPS boot camp. That's where Harriet and I met. And you're about to graduate from the 6-month boot camp. Woohoo. That's awesome. But tell us, we have a few minutes here. Tell us about confidence and communication. Where do you want to start?
I think really in relevance to what is being spoken about today, I think both of these topics are so connected, right? And I loved listening to what Charles said. I definitely should have had you in my life when I first started a business.
Me too.
As you were going through the checklist of what to do, I was thinking, oh, didn't. But I learned some lessons the hard way. And I certainly agree with what Charles was saying about what is a more empowered and what is a more effective approach to turning your side hustle into a business. And even Charles himself said about having that confidence. And I would say even before your plan, even before understanding your priorities and your focus, it's really developing that confidence to take action. I love what Mel Robbins shares about having that willingness to try. Confidence is another word that just gets thrown about these days. You know, I wish I was confident. I want to be as confident as then. I am a confident individual. But what if we kind of flip that perspective and look at it as a willingness to try? You know, in spite of fear, in spite of what the result might be. You know, there's that big cliche quote of, I'm either going to win or I'm going to learn. But really taking that and embodying that and knowing that no matter what the result is, I have the willingness to try. And especially if you're turning a side hustle into a full-time business, you need that willingness to try, that willingness to take action, that willingness to feel the fear, but do it anyway, as that amazing book by Susan Jeffries said. So I think absolutely confidence is key in life, but especially in business and becoming an entrepreneur. And then of course,
oh, let me just ask, what do you like? What are some ways that you recommend people build that confidence? What are some tips or secrets you'd have to offer?
Sure, I'd love to share some, and I will absolutely put a disclaimer in here as well and say that my biggest tip is to find what works for you, right? There's so many people around this world, 7.5 billion, and everybody's telling you what you should do and how you should do it. The reality is we're all different personalities. We all learn, grow, develop, etc., in different ways. So it's about finding what works for you. The obvious cliches: attend events, attend webinars, attend masterclasses, attend and listen to interviews like this, attend and be in different environments, read, listen, watch something that is educational, inspirational, and motivational for you. But do it regularly, something that supports giving you an empowered mindset and gives you that empowered feeling to go and take action. Another big tip, and people don't like this one, it's shared a lot, it feels like a bit of a cop out, but it's take action. So many people think that confidence is something that you need to develop in order to take action. You know, if I felt good, if I felt confident, then I would do this. But actually, by taking, as I was saying earlier, by having that willingness to try and taking those small steps, builds the muscle memory, builds the evidence, supports your mindset in taking that action again. And the more we continuously do that action, like with any skill, we become more competent and we become more confident in doing it. I also recommend loads of different things like meditation, visualization, journaling, mental exercises, definitely looking at your habits, what your habits are supporting you, what your setup and your routine is for allowing yourself to develop not just your relationships, your life, your finances, your business, your work, but yourself, truly focusing on what habits are going to develop you and your confidence moving forwards. And last tip, I'm going on a little bit, but last big tip for confidence is definitely to surround yourself with a tribe, a like-minded tribe, group. Even better, if you're starting a business, surround yourself with other people that are on that journey as well. A like-minded tribe to support you, to encourage you, to kind of give you a nudge, lift you up, listen when you're going through challenges, but also to celebrate the wins and empower you in taking that action moving forwards as well.
Let me know if I got this right. I want to recap. You gave 3 tips for building confidence, and I used the word contemplate. You didn't use that word, but you said, observe, listen, watch, ask questions. So I would say, yes, reflect and contemplate is 1. Now I would add to that, if that's all you do is think, you're gonna scare the hell out of yourself, because we're frightening creatures, deep inside. So that's where your second tip came, which was action. You got to put your ideas, your thoughts into motion with the real world, with people, so that you can see how those ideas impact others. Some of it will come back to you, and maybe rattle your confidence, but it'll also help you build your confidence. And then the third thing I really like is your tribe. Surround yourself with people that can support you, and that can give you honest, I think, feedback and constructive criticism. Not just a bunch, as you heard Charles and I say, you don't want to just have a bunch of people around you agreeing with every idea you have, because that's going to build false confidence, right?
Absolutely.
So,
And especially when we connect that to speaking, I was laughing when he said about going and asking your grandma. With public speaking, it's exactly the same. It's about getting that relevant feedback, someone that's got experience, someone that can spot where you can improve, where you can grow, where you can become better, but also supports and encourages what you're doing well, rather than just going, yeah, that was amazing, well done.
So let's connect the dots here between, you said communication and confidence and unleashing your inner warrior. So can you connect all this for us? How does confidence and communication relate to unleashing your warrior?
Absolutely. For me, to be honest, unleashing your warrior within is exactly that. It's connecting to your inner potential, to your core confidence. Les Brown might say to the greatness you have inside. Joe Dispenza might say to the genius within. We all have different words for it, but essentially it's that inner potential and that inner power that everybody has. A lot of people doubt it, but everybody has that. So it's about connecting to that confidence from the core. And then where communication comes in, quite often, I'm a speaker trainer. Quite often people think that public speaking communication is all external. Well, I would absolutely enforce and encourage you to think all communication starts within, and connecting it to confidence and unleashing your warrior within. How are you communicating to yourself? What is your internal dialogue? What is your story has become the more well-known way of looking at it. We think between 60 to 80,000 thoughts per day, depending on what research you look at. So are those thoughts serving you? Are you running old records from the past? Are you running a story that I'm a failure, I can't do this, it won't work for me, I've tried that, but it didn't happen, etc., etc. You know, bringing that awareness to your internal dialogue to understand, how am I communicating to myself? And is it supporting me in unleashing that warrior, or feeling the fear and staying as a warrior? And then, of course, communication externally. Right? I think it was Tony Robbins that said the quality of your communication determines the quality of your life. First of all, through how you're speaking to yourself, your mindset, what we express externally starts internally. But then secondly, our relationships around us, of course, with our nearest and dearest, our family, our loved ones, etc. But also team members, customers, on sales calls. We're communicating all the time, especially if you're a business, especially if you're an entrepreneur. We, all part of your team, are communicating all the time, selling your product, your service, your message, whatever it might be. So in order to really have effective sales and to increase that revenue, then we need to understand how to effectively communicate to support both the customer, the client, the team, etc., and your business and its growth.
What wonderful stuff, Harriet. I'm so glad you were able to get up here and share this with us. And what I'm going to do is segue into a quick public service announcement, and then I'll bring Harriet and Charles back on. We're going to pick up both of these conversations right where we left off. But Harriet, thank you so much for being here.
A pleasure. Thank you.
All right. So what I'm going to do is just transition over to here real quick. And I made a mistake. I started playing that commercial plug for Vehicle Acquisition Network. And what I actually meant to do, let me make sure I had this shared on screen. There we go. You heard me mention that Harriet is a member in our Get Paid to Speak program. And I said, go to autoconversion.net/grow, and you'll see that. If you go to that URL that I mentioned, this is what you will see right here. And there's Get Paid to Speak. But also down here is our new masterclass called Jolt Business Vision. And if you follow that link, you'll go here to the sign up page. You heard Charles and I talking about planning, strategy. And we didn't really get into this, but I'll bring it up here, because one thing I was kind of leaning towards is the idea of personal vision, aligning your personal vision with your business vision. A lot of us separate our personal lives from our business lives. That's what we've been trained or indoctrinated to think we need to do. And I would just encourage you to maybe consider that barrier, if you will, and understand that maybe they need to be aligned. And so we have a new program called Jolt Business Vision. And what this does is it combines two key elements here in AutoConversion. One is it incorporates an omni-channel multimedia public relations strategy. That's the AutoConversion piece. But also there's a coaching component for aligning your business plan with your personal vision. It looks like the sign-up page is broken. I'll have to fix that. I will have that fixed after the show. But you can sign up for free and you'll get the free takeaways. You get the business planner worksheet and our B2B demand generation guide. We have a new version coming out. And then when the time is right, you can still sign up. It's only $195 per month. That's for a limited time. The cost of the program will be going up very shortly once we fill up the initial round of class. So head on over to autoconversion.net/grow and check out all the great programs we have, including our free ones, which I'll speak to at the end of this program. Let's get away from this, and let's bring Charles and Harriet back to the stage. Harriet, you are back on as well. There we go. And we have about 20 minutes here, guys, which goes quickly, but it's a lot of time to listen to people talk. So, Charles, I'd like to start with you and maybe give you the floor to respond to my conversation with Harriet about confidence and communication.
It was fantastic. I was taking notes, and one of the big things that she had mentioned about the number of thoughts we have per day, and I've seen that so many times. The issue that I think entrepreneurs run into in any way, shape, form, or fashion is not just that we have, let's say, 80,000 thoughts. The number of those thoughts that she had mentioned that are just looping, they're past failures or future concerns or something your dad told you when you were 4 that you carry around now that you're 46. Not that you guys are, but I turned 46 on Sunday, and for some reason I'm freaking out over that more than when I turned 40. Maybe it's because I'm on the wrong side of 40. Anyways, those loops keep digging in, and so many of them are thoughtless and negative, and we go back to it for whatever reason. And it's whether it's old caveman DNA or whatever it is that you believe, but it's trying to break that pattern. And she gave several great examples of how to do that. There's a lot of good books, one with a weird title, but I've always went back to is Psycho-Cybernetics, about how to retrain your thought pattern and how to make sure that you can get that winning feeling that helps you not just start a business, but grow a business or do anything. But yeah, great stuff, Harriet.
What'd you call the book? Psycho what?
Psycho-Cybernetics, written in the 1940s
Cybernetics.
and been updated several times since by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. He was a plastic surgeon. I don't know what a plastic surgeon did back in the 40s. It's probably scary stuff.
Oh boy, talk about experimental medical
Dude,
work.
and if you read the original, it's written like it was in the 40s, talking about men being homely or ugly, but I fixed it. Anyways, don't you skip across that and go to the new updated version. But the idea is that he found that several people that he quote unquote fixed were still not happy. And several people that he never operated on, but had him go through some thought and mental exercises, became happy without the plastic surgery. Whole point being is that he tapped into a new type of psychology at that point named Psycho-Cybernetics, which was, hey, maybe our thoughts have something to do with how we act as people.
I would even put forth our thoughts have everything to do with how we look.
Sure.
You know, I believe we are a manifestation, a byproduct of our thoughts. So you ever heard the book As a Man Thinketh?
Of course.
You know, I think
much easier read, by the way.
Yeah, that is a pretty easy read. But I mean, yeah, if it drills, what it drills in is these thoughts going through our minds. They have everything to do with our external corporal experience.
Sure,
for sure. So thank you for that, Charles. Harriet, let me turn to you. You have the title of firewalk instructor. Is that a side hustle for you, or is that a full-time gig business for you?
I would say, and I'd also like to just add, happy birthday, no matter how you feel about it.
Oh, you're awesome. Sunday, your birthday, Charles?
Birthday to you, Charles.
Was.
Yeah, I think it was Sunday. So happy belated birthday to you. Firewalk instructor, I would say it's a funnel within my main full-time business. Of course, with COVID, that changed massively. It wasn't a part of the business at all. Maybe some analogies, some references, some stories about it to convey certain messages to audiences, but certainly no live firewalks. But even in full-time, obviously it being a live event with the equipment that's needed, etc., it's something that I probably run once every 2 to 3 months.
Okay, so you do it yourself. It's not through an organization or an entity. It's something you do. And you say the tools or resources. Does that mean you need a bed of hot fire coals outside somewhere? Is that one of them?
The result, yes. And of course, that starts as your wood, the fire that you need to burn. Depending on the venue, you might need turf or cement boards. I'm not going to bore people with a list of equipment. but you just need certain tools plus tenders. So if I'm facilitating and taking a group across the fire, then we want people that are supporting the fire, raking it out, making sure it's safe, etc., etc.
So this is not a DIY project.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay.
It's not one of my top tips for building confidence. Build a fire and walk on it.
But if you can pull it off, I bet you have a ton of confidence.
Probably.
Yeah. I know I'd feel pretty confident.
Whether it's calm, empowered confidence or ignorance on fire, pardon the pun, I don't know. But
well, truly fascinating. I want to learn more about that myself. Harriet, do you have any questions for Charles?
I don't at the moment. I love what he was sharing. I also was taking a few notes and reflecting on how I started my business. But I just wanted to kind of add something to what we were just sharing about the fire. And that really is the greatness of experiential breakthroughs and firewalking. So often we, due to past, etc., our confidence has been knocked, our self-esteem about our potential, about what we're capable of having that willingness to try, etc., is knocked. And there's only so much that a mentor, a friend, someone telling you or cheering you on can do. Now, don't get me wrong, that's helpful, having people in your corner. I mentioned a tribe earlier, but with something like firewalking, once you've done that, you stand in front of fire, hot coals, and you walk across it. You've connected with potential. You've felt fear, physically felt fear, and then you've overcome it through a conscious choice and a certain mindset. So then it's about bringing that to your everyday life and carrying that thought of ignite the fire. You've got the experience, you've got the evidence. So it's much easier to show up when that fear does. For example, pressing live on a Facebook, having a sales conversation, whatever it might be, when that feeling of fear comes up, it's about making that conscious choice to take action anyway.
What about you, Charles? You have any interest in walking the flames that Harriet talks about?
Nope.
No, I think I would do it.
I tell you what, I let me back up. So probably, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, I didn't have a lot of interest in a lot of the things that Harriet had been speaking of, whether it's meditating and journaling, reading, visualization. And slowly but surely, I'm a full-on convert now. And that's one thing, maybe firewalking's at the end of the line there for me, or is a whole new game where I step into that and then find out all kinds of fun new things that I need to learn about myself. But I tell you what, if you're what I'd like to ask Harriet, and it may be very helpful to some of your listeners, if you were to take a Charles Alexander from, let's say, 5 years ago, 41-year-old Charles Alexander, who's, let's say full-time job, toying around with a side hustle, wife, kids, all the responsibilities, just regular old run-of-the-mill, American, and this would be anybody. How do you get them slowly but surely to start adopting some of these practices where you become mindful, where you work on yourself? What's the gateway drug to getting them from point A to point B to even start thinking about it?
For me, and great question, thank you for asking. I think it's about that end result. It's that connecting somebody to, no matter what it is they're doing in their life, it's different for all of us. It starts with us. We are that one common denominator in every single area of our life. So if you can connect somebody to the benefits of personal development, of feeling confident in your day to day, and again, that's going to be for you. And the example that you just gave, it's connecting somebody to, well, how would it feel to run your own business? Why is that important to you? Would it give you more family time? Would it give you flexibility? It's really connecting to the individual of why they want that growth, that new step, that transformation, and then connecting them to what healthy habits will support achieving that transformation.
I just took notes. I'm stealing that.
It's such a meta. I've never thought about firewalking until this conversation. I never put much thought into it, but the metaphor to running a business to me is very prevalent now, because I had a conversation just last week with a colleague, and you know, she's been trying to kind of get her side hustle into a full-time business for about a year now, and I could just tell from talking with her, even she said she's like ready to throw in the towel. And what I said to her, this was in a clubhouse. I said, look, when you're running a business, when you're an entrepreneur, you're not going to always feel like that, but you're always going to have times when you do. You're always going to have the ebbs and flows. And I'll even, bring Elon Musk into the equation. I mean, think about when there hasn't been as much, I guess, opposition over the last year, but there was a time when you had a lot of big money players in the space of automobile manufacturing, investing, electric batteries that wanted Tesla to fail, and plenty of people still do. So, here, I think most people that we might be reaching that are looking at a side hustle or have a side hustle, they don't have a world or a market trying to defeat you. They're singling you out.
Sure.
So I don't think many of us can really relate or appreciate that kind of pressure, where you actually have dark enemies trying to make you fail. Whereas if you're just trying to launch a side hustle for a business, most people, most of your friends want you to succeed. You have some cheerleaders. Charles, what do you do, or what do you recommend for hustlers, for business owners, when they get to those challenging points in our minds where we're ready to give up, or we feel inadequate, we don't have the confidence? What are some recommendations you have to work through those, that whether it's days or weeks, that can last for weeks?
Ideally, it's just like I think you guys had already mentioned it. Most of the time, it's when we get overwhelmed, and it's not necessarily because things aren't working as well as they used to, although that can be some of the issues. It's just that I've looked at my calendar, I've looked at my schedule, I have 1,000 things to do, and I don't know where to begin. So generally, I tell people when you get to that point, it's just important that you take even some small actions, even if they're not the priority, even if they don't. Even if it's not the small hinge that swings the big doors, so to speak, it's to take on those smaller tasks first to build that confidence back up. And then also to think of what the end in mind is, and to remind them, so much like you just did, there's zero entrepreneurs out there who didn't go through dark days, and there's zero that are successful now that don't have those randomly on either a weekly or monthly basis. That's part of the trade-off. When you leave the 9 to 5, you take that mundane, what I almost call like zombie-like existence for so many people, and you go full on Matrix. You take the red pill and you know what's up now. So when you go into entrepreneurship, you got highs and lows. So your goal is to just make more highs than lows. But when you have the lows, know that that's part of it. That's part of what you signed up for.
I agree. You have to have the mindset that this is part of the process, and you have to work through that. A good analogy I would throw out there is, I had learned this from washing dishes in high school at a restaurant, is you start with the cleaner dishes first.
There you go.
The smaller things, because if
The
you go right,
low-hanging fruit.
if you go right to the big dirty pans, you need a whole new, sink full of water after the first one.
Right.
So you have to, and I do think there's times, because every business you have big tasks, big projects, and you have little mindless stuff too. You have the administrative mindless stuff. And I'm very aware of when I want to, be constructive and creative and work on the big projects versus just knocking out some little stuff. And that does kind of give you little senses of accomplishment. They don't last long. It's like it's like a seedling growing on a rock, but at least you get some temporary, boost of confidence by knocking out those little things. Harriet, do you want to respond to the same question? I know you kind of did during our segment, but do you want to maybe add to that some ways to work through those doldrums, if you will, as an entrepreneur, as a side hustler?
Sure. I think some great tips have been given already. And it is, for me, it's about, as has been said, just readjusting that mindset into what you're doing. knowing that it's part of the process. You know, I speak on mindset, I talk about positivity and having an empowered approach. And I know there's that cliche going around at the moment about toxic positivity. And it's true. You know, you're not going to feel like, yes, woo, I've got this every single minute of every single day. It's just not possible. But what you can do is understand how you can bring yourself into a calm and empowered state. So even if it's a moment of overwhelm, you're feeling stressed, you're feeling frustrated, maybe it's something that, you know, people laugh at this, but pull a power pose. Change your physiology. There's a amazing video on YouTube by Amy Cuddy about the power of power poses and what your physiology can do for how you feel. And we said it earlier, you know, thoughts, you're running all day. Thoughts turn to feelings. Your thoughts plus your feelings will determine what actions you take. So if your physiology can affect your thoughts and how you feel, pull out that power pose. Go to the toilet if you're at work or if you're in an office somewhere. Go to the toilet and just change your physiology. Change what you're focusing on, what you're thinking about, instead of really running the problem or running the to-do list or running whatever issue has shown up for you. Start to come out. I always say go general to start off with. As was said a little bit about the dishes, go general to start off with. Think about what is going well, what is working, what you can be grateful for, what customers have shown up, what sales have come in, what shifts in your business are working, whatever it might be, what's going well. And then the more you put yourself into a feeling good state of mind, then you can return to whatever the issue or the challenge or whatever's shown up for you to that day. And you're much more likely to approach it or take action on it in a more productive manner when you're coming from a feeling good state of mind rather than a state of mind.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the things that can bog us down mentally, like you said, Charles, too, is getting overwhelmed with all the things to do. It's like, where's my priority? And I know for me, I think I do three things to work through that. One of them, sometimes I just get up and either meditate or go for a walk, right? Because that just disconnects you and reorients you, and it's a very real way through that fogginess. Another thing I know I'm disciplined. I try to be really disciplined about is when things come at me, which they do all day long, that I need to do is I put them in a list and I just dump them there. And I try to be disciplined not to tackle it right away. I put in a list. I try to let it sit there for the day. And a lot of times, some of those things that you think are urgent and needed, you can actually never end up doing them, and that's okay too. So I'm always fine with, like, you know what? I don't need to do that anymore. I thought I did a week ago, but now I don't. And I know the other thing is working on your business plan, right? Especially if you are struggling mentally, psychologically, or emotionally, like you're ready to give in. I think focusing on your business plan and getting back into why you're doing what you're doing, how you're going to do what you do, that just kind of seals the world out and lets you focus on what you're in it for. And that, to me, that's therapeutic as well. Guys, we're out of time. Great topic, Charles. Thanks for bringing this to the table and being here for the first time. Both of you here are first time.
Thank you.
You're both welcome back, and love to see you and mix it up. So, Charles Alexander, everybody, you can go to yourcharlesalexander.com to learn more. And then Harriet Bratt, where should someone go if they want to connect with you and learn more about what you do, Harriet?
www.harriet. Why do we always do the www bit at the beginning? HarrietBratt.com or Harriet Bratt on Facebook and Instagram as well.
Okay. Well, awesome, guys. We're going to go ahead and let you go. I need about 2 or 3 minutes just to wind down the show. And thanks again for being here, guys.
Thanks,
Thanks
folks.
for a great show and great to connect with you, Charles.
All right. So I'm going to wrap this up here. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. And just to wrap this up, let's see. There we go. What a wonderful conversation. Look, we do this because for obvious reasons. We're here to learn. We're here to meet people. We're here to connect with people, engage with people, and we're here to grow. And that means growing not just our business, but growing personally, right? Spiritually, psychologically, We need to grow. Running a business is not for the faint of heart. It's not necessarily for everybody. I do want to just do some orientation stuff. If you go to autoconversion.net and you go to the Get Started tab, that will make you an AC insider. It gives you the inside scoop. But the problem is you won't necessarily get the special invites that we sent. So, for example, this email went out to everyone that's registered with our free B2B Marketing Pros discussion group. Lets you know what the game plan is and how you can get up here and join us for the discussion. So what you want to do is go to autoconversion.net/grow. And then go to B2B Marketing Pros and right here. And you can sign up for free. That'll tag you in our system so that you can get these types of notifications. And if you upgrade to be a premium member, then you'll have access to even more information and invites in our Slack member network, which you can see linked here, which, by the way, I would recommend going to the network tab and joining our free unlisted influencers group on LinkedIn. You'll also get the invites to participate as well. Well, that's a wrap. I'm going to go ahead and wind things down. I am Ryan Girardi, and this is B2B Hour on Auto Conversion. We do this about once a month, and it's a great experience to be part of this growing private digital community. I'm going to go ahead and shut things down. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great rest of your month, and we'll see you next time around. Take care, everybody.